So Nearby Brad. Oh.
What just happened then?
I went for one leg to stretch my other leg and then I fell over. Oh, scary. You know what? Well, that's it. That's the intro. Just me like, oh, so scary.
People will never know what you were going to say.
No, never. To be fair, I forgot. Contrary to its reputation as beloved films of the 1980s, Back to the Future was a reported nightmare behind the scenes to film, with the finger of blame usually being pointed at actor Crispin Glover, who was such a gargantuan wang behind the scenes. They specifically wrote scenes into the sequel without an excuse to annoy and torture him. And then when he didn't turn up for filming, they made another actor wear his face and did it anyway.
Well, actually, I figured since it wasn't due till Monday.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home?
So, Brad, do you like Back to the Future?
Big fan.
Yeah, so do you know about its incredibly laborious and frustrating production?
Not in depth. I mean, if we've mentioned it before, I've clearly forgotten, so.
So, do you know, for example, like Marty McFly? The actor was recast about 3-4 weeks into production.
Yeah. Who was the original one?
It was Eric Stoltz.
That's the one, yeah.
It was actor Eric Stoltz, and do you know why he was fired? I'll give you a clue. Jared Leto.
Fight Club?
He started Fight Club. I was saying like method acting.
Oh,
because
I thought specifically Jared
No.
Leto.
So the reason I was thinking like there's two answers you can say that like he sexually assaulted someone or he was a method actor. That's like one of the two things you get from that prompt there. But no, he was a method actor, and it was apparently really, really annoying because he would walk around on set insisting that everybody called him Marty, and was just so engrossed in his character and just ultimately so frustrating to deal with that he was fired about 3 weeks into production.
And then things were difficult on the set. Eric it was not easy. He was doing a very methody thing. You know, everybody call me Marty.
Okay.
Except Leah, who's playing my mom, who I'm trying to make out with.
Right.
You know,
and there's
off
a
camera.
quote from Christopher Lloyd about Stoltz's time on set that I don't know how to read, because when he was asked, like straight up, like, so you worked on Back to the Future in the beginning, right? And it's like, yeah. So what was it like working with Eric Stoltz before he got replaced? And Christopher Lloyd responds, Eric who? But he worked with Eric Stoltz. Like there's behind the scenes footage and shots of the fly. It's going around. Like there are behind the scenes shots of them two working together.
Marty, I'm sorry, but the only power source capable of generating 1.21 gigawatts of electricity is a bolt of lightning.
So I don't know how to read that. Of like, is Christopher Lloyd just being a dick and be like, I don't remember working with him, even though he clearly did? Or is it that, like, because Eric Stoltz was in character and insisted on being referred to as Marty the entire time, like, they just never got formally introduced?
I never thought about that. Yeah, like if he did the entire time he was there, if he'd said, call me Marty, and Christopher Lloyd didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Eric Stoltz, I don't know what he's been in.
He's been a lot. He's a really good actor.
Oh.
But the thing is, well, he looks almost exactly like Michael J. Fox. They look very similar to the point where pictures of him in like costume, like for the few weeks he was there, you're looking at, is that? It's like, no, it's not. It's Eric Stoltz in character, and he was fired for being a method actor, and also because he refused to be funny, which is ironically quite funny in of itself. So, do you want to guess at why he didn't like want to be funny? Because it's actually, I think he has a point. Because when I was like initially like, he was in a comedy movie and he didn't want to be funny, but then I read his reasoning and it's actually really sound.
Well, is this got something to do with comedy in a movie that isn't specifically meant to be like slapstick or whatever comedy is funnier when the characters don't know they're in a comedy?
A la like Airplane and stuff.
Yeah, like Leslie Nielsen, the straight man playing saying silly lines as a straight man.
Yeah, it's not that, although I will always appreciate any excuse to put a Leslie Nielsen clip in one of these videos.
I can't believe what I just saw.
These men died for their country. Send flowers to their bitches and hoes.
No, it's because he didn't think that it was a comedy movie. He thought the premise of Back to the Future was horrifying. And when he was asked, like, what do you mean? It's a fun, family-friendly romp, like, you know, throughout time. He said, no, the movie's horrifying. Marty McFly, when he, you know, goes back to the future, that's a timeline that he doesn't remember. His family's dead.
Hey, what the hell is this?
Breakfast.
Would you sleep in your clothes again last night?
Yeah,
Which you think about, like, hang on a second, yeah, because when he changes the future, all of the memories for his family have changed as well. Like the time he lived in with his parents, that version of his parents no longer exists.
Rick and Morty covers it.
Yeah, it's like, it's a pretty common sci-fi trope, but they don't address it in the film. And Eric Stoltz was like, no, it's horrifying. He goes, no, it's fun. His family's all rich now and they're doing much better for themselves. Like, but that's not his family. His family are dead. He kills them throughout the course of the film. And the memories he has of that life are of a timeline that no longer exists. That's terrifying to think about, and he refused to play it anything other than a horror movie.
Like, if you take the whimsy out of the film, if you think about it, so Marty McFly ends up being transported backwards in time out of his own time because he's getting shot at.
Yeah.
And then when he gets back to the past, he nearly erases himself and his entire family from existence.
This proves my theory. Look at your brother.
His head's gone. It's like it's been erased.
Erased from existence.
But he ends up returning to a timeline where he no longer belongs, because the Marty McFly that would exist in that universe has different memories and experiences to him. What else is different that we don't see?
Yeah. They sort of play it off as, all they are is now rich and successful and happier. And he's still with the girl he wanted to be with. But and he has the car he wanted as well. Like, it's played off as a good thing.
But Eric Stoltz, and I think you very sagely point out, no, the premise is actually kind of horrifying. And that's why he refused to play it like a comedy, because he's like, it's not a comedy, you're making a horror movie. You don't realise it, you're making a horror movie. And those arguments and the fact that he was just annoying to deal with, and the fact he wasn't giving them the performance that they wanted. Because that's the thing, I think he's right. I like his point. I think it's a very good point. But you're being hired to do a job, act the way you're told. And he wouldn't. So they fired him, replaced him with Matthew J. Fox. Matthew J. Fox?
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox. What am I thinking? Matthew J. Fox. Am I thinking about Matthew? Is Matthew Fox the guy from Lost? Is that him? The bald guy from Lost? The main character? Is he called Matthew Fox? I'm going to have to Google this now.
Shepherd, isn't it? I thought he was called.
Let's have a look. Let's just Google Matthew Fox, who turns up. Yeah, it's Matthew Fox. Yeah, he's the main guy from Lost.
What's the actor called?
No, Matthew Fox is the actor.
What's the name of the character?
I don't know.
Is it Summer Shepherd?
He's known for playing Jack Shepherd in the
There we
drama
go,
series
yeah,
Lost.
that's what I was getting.
And his middle name's Chandler.
With the actor or the character?
The actor. The actor is called Matthew Chandler Fox.
Matthew C. Fox. Then you got Michael C. Hall.
Yeah, I think that's why they was a little bit confused in my head that they got replaced, and production could resume.
You don't just walk into a store and buy plutonium. Did you rip that off?
And for most films, having to replace the main actor, like a month into production, would be the one thing that caused issues. But no, Crispin Glover also made things a complete nightmare.
So I actually don't know a lot about this. So was Crispin Glover a bellend?
Yes.
This isn't just he said, she had. This isn't just he said, she said. Like with The Fresh Prince, you never really knew who the problem was. It was just they replaced the actress.
Yeah.
Do we know that Crispin Glover was the bad guy in this situation?
We know that he was a prick. He acted like a prick. He was just constantly arguing over every little thing. There's a story about the fact he brought production to a screeching halt because he refused to walk through a door. Because the director's walk through the door. And it's my character wouldn't walk through the door that way. It's just walk through the door. It's no, I wouldn't walk through the door that way. Just walk through the fucking door.
Does his character enter rooms through windows?
No, he's just but he argues my character wouldn't do it like that. So just walk through the door. And we've talked about actors doing stuff like this in the past. We mentioned David Suchet.
Poirot.
Yeah. And the fact that he would argue with people who were directing episodes of Poirot of the character wouldn't do this. And that's because he had read all the novels and had received acclaim from the Agatha Christie Society. And they're yeah, you are the character come to life. So when he was saying stuff like Poirot wouldn't do this, he had a point.
I am Hercule Poirot? Yes, madam.
Oh, you're not a bit how I thought you'd be.
Hercule Poirot is a private detective.
But Crispin Glover, he's not playing this well-established literary figure. It's a character that was written, and it's act this way. No, I don't think my character would act that way.
Have you not read the 30-novel series about George McFly?
And that's the one, yeah. So he would do stuff like that, and just constantly argue and moan and bitch out the director. He was also just a massive wang to all the production crew and the writers and stuff like that. And Generally, you can get away with that as an actor if you're a good actor. But here's the thing. He also kept messing up his lines. So he was making these complaints, but then he wasn't giving a good performance. Because if he'd have done if he'd have given an amazing performance, then you'd be like, okay, he's just like, he's a perfectionist or whatever. But I know.
It's bunny and lawyer.
Yeah.
You accept it because he's good at what he does.
He's eccentric or he's just passionate about the craft. But not only was he just a prick to everyone behind the scenes, he also gave such a bad performance, they literally had to ADR all his lines in. So they had to bring him back in at considerable expense and make him re-record all his lines because he kept forgetting them and flubbing the lines.
And then obviously they need to get back for the sequel as well.
Yes, so he was such a nightmare to deal with that they didn't really want to bring him back. But Crispin Glover has a very characterful face, like one of his one of these. And he was such an arsehole behind the scenes. They didn't want to bring him back. But George McFly, pretty big character, and also Crispin Glover has a very characterful face.
Yeah, like you get away with it for Marty's girlfriend because they recast her, but you only see her at the start and the end. She's not one of the main characters through the entire course of the plot.
Yeah.
And who appears in multiple timelines and all that kind of thing.
But like Crispin Glover has like a very distinct look about him, so it's very difficult to recast him. So they didn't want to bring him back, so they're like, fuck it, he was an arsehole, we don't want to deal with it, just bring someone else in. But the people writing the film didn't realise this, so when they were writing it, they were so pissed off with Glover and all the shit he was pulling that they specifically wrote scenes into Back to the Future 2 where they'd have an excuse to fuck with him. Like, do you know, like when he turns up and he's upside down?
I was going to say, isn't he upside down in a chair?
Yeah, they did that because they knew that they were bringing they thought they were bringing Crispin Glover back. Like, how can we get back at him? Let's write a bunch of scenes in the film where we can just fuck with him or make him do stuff that he's not comfortable doing. Because fuck him.
It's really funny that he pissed off enough people that the fucking writers...
The writers for the film, they specifically inserted scenes where they'd have an excuse to make him do something that make him uncomfortable because he'd been such a wang behind the scenes.
How did you do that? How did you do that?
Oh, out on the golf course.
Are your folks home yet? I brought pizza for everyone. Oh.
The problem was, he didn't come back, so those scenes were still in the film, but they had to get another actor to do them, which is where wearing his face comes into it. So, as mentioned... No. Glover has a very distinctive look, and for the old age makeup for the film, they did have him make casts of his face, and they took those casts and they made a rubber prosthesis that they made the other actor they got in wear.
But they didn't change any of the scenes.
They didn't change any of the scenes, no.
So they basically wrote torture for Crispin Glover and then made someone else do it
while wearing a mask of his face. If you watch those scenes, you'll see that he's very blurry in the background, a lot of shots, and he's rarely in the film.
I'd love to hear Eric Stoltz's version of this, because in the first film, it was meant to be a funny comedy film. He's like, horror movie. Comes in for the second one. It's like, why is a guy wearing a skin mask of someone else being tortured?
Yeah, but that's alone's pretty funny, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting tidbit about the production of the movie, but here's where things get kind of prescient for film as it exists now, because Crispin Glover was not happy with this. Crispin Glover as an actor, his face is essentially, how he gets roles. And if you can just make someone wear a mask of his face, that's kind of fucked up, right? And the reason I say it's prescient is because think of all the stuff we have now like AI and CGI.
Yeah, we can literally do that.
Yeah, you can just take another actor's face, someone who's been dead. It's like Peter Cushing in the, is it Rogue One he's in?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear how they made that? Because it's a similar story. It's he was in a film called Top Secret,
right?
Which is, we mentioned Airplane earlier. It was made by the guys who made Air.
Have you tried one of these?
Wow, well, thanks. I'll give it a whirl.
Where it's like a Great Escape parody.
Right.
And he's in that, and he has like a giant eyeball, and that's like a cast of his face for that, so they could make this big rubber prop for his head.
So they just had his face.
So that's what they had lying around, and they used that to make the CGI model of Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars.
They don't even need to do that now, though. You can just any footage of a person that you can with obviously the reface technology, the face swapping, where you can just
they can do it, yeah. But seeing Crispin,
fake, that's what it's called.
But Crispin Glover saw this coming because he filed suit against the studio and was like, "The fuck are you doing? You're using my likeness in a way that I don't approve of." I'm like, no, we're not. It's like he's literally wearing my face. It's not like if he just recasted George McFly, that's one thing. But because he has such distinct features, they made the actor wear the prosthesis to look more like him.
Yeah.
And he did win his court case. And there's a quote from him here that I think is incredibly incredibly like prophetic, given what like the industry is now. Where when he was in the court, he said, "Things may happen in the future that will make this more important." When the judge asked him, "Why do you give such a huge shit?" So why do you give such a huge shit that, like, you know, they've taken your face? Like, this is obviously a fringe example. It's like,
I can see like the context of the argument against it, like for it being able to do it, because it's a film where like it's not his face, it's the character's face.
But the character, and that's the argument there, of like how much of the, you know, the performance belongs to the actor, how much it belongs to the writer. But his argument was like, you are literally wearing my face. And when they said, well, it's a fringe example, why do you want to set a precedent now? It's like, because, as you know, in the future, things might change and make this a lot easier. And look what's happened.
Yeah.
Where you can like literally put dead actors into your movies now. You have acts like Robin Williams when he died, literally wrote into his will, you cannot use my likeness for any project for at least 100 years.
I don't mind an actor being de-aged, because I think in the new, in Dial of Time, Dial of Destiny, I think Harrison Ford is supposed to be de-aged in a scene, and I don't mind them doing that. Like, that's the same actor, they bring the character back, etc. And if they want to have a cameo scene, like, of somebody who is fine with it, who after they die, like, if Carrie Fisher had said, "Oh, you can put my face in Rogue One at the end," if she was okay with it, then I also don't mind that. But bringing somebody back, using that technology, or bringing the young likeness back or something for an extended scene. I'm talking about Boba Fett.
Yeah.
When they brought back Luke, a young Luke, for the whole episode. Like, obviously, they had Mark Hamill's.
Did you ever see as well, like the guy they got to do the?
He looks just like him.
He looks like Mark Hamill, yeah. Like people don't know they had like a body double in to play Mark Hamill, and he looks exactly like Mark Hamill. And they just CGI'd Mark Hamill's face over his face, which already looks like Mark Hamill's. And it's because if we hire that guy, then we've locked in he's Luke Skywalker. If we use Mark Hamill's face, we can get any fucker to play him.
But like, it comes across as just creepy in that situation, because like, I'm much happier that they got in Aaron back, or it was called, the guy who played
Aaron Eckhart. No, he's the guy.
No, that Aaron Eckhart is Two-Face.
Yeah, he's Two-Face. Yeah, sorry.
Aaron Ehrenreich, yeah. But I'm glad they got that guy in as Han Solo and not like de-aged, because it just makes for a better product.
But yeah, I know. And Crispin Glover, like, you know, it's that meme, isn't it? Of like, he's out of line, but he's right. He had a point. Of like, at some point in the future, the technology to do this will be widely available, and studios cannot be trusted to not abuse it. And you see it now, don't you? Like, you have actors, as I said, writing clauses into their wills and their contracts that they do of like, you can't use my face. Like,
that actor's performance with small portions of myself,
which you had done for the first film.
For the first film.
But to make it look like you were doing a performance that you hadn't done.
That's right, to fool audiences into believing that I was in the film. This is what my lawsuit was about: copyright infringement.
And we've mentioned Disney and Star Wars. Like, there is this really persistent rumor that I'm inclined to believe that when Kylo Ren just reforges his helmet, and it's like, oh, he puts his helmet back on and then takes it straight back off. The rumoured reason for that is that Adam Driver would not sign over his likeness rights. He wouldn't let them use his likeness rights, and they wanted to use that version of Kylo Ren in a ride or something. So they wrote into the film that he puts the mask back on, so that they could have the version of Kylo Ren with the mask in the rides and some of the games, because they couldn't get Adam Driver's likeness.
But could they not have just used the original helmet?
Well, no, like, he destroys it, doesn't he, at the end of the... But that's the thing, but then he reforges it, and it's like the rumoured reason why is because they couldn't get Adam Driver to sign over his likeness rights, because he looks at it and went, I'm not doing that. It's like, what idiot would just sign over their rights to their face when their face is like how they make money to Disney?
Yeah.
And like, you have that in, like, I think it was like Troy Baker, just like, you know, put his whole foot into his mouth. Of like, hey, I'm going to partner with this AI studio to make my own job obsolete.
You have no idea what loss is.
It's that short-sightedness of I'm going to get a small paycheck now to be complicit in the complete obsolescence of my own career.
Well, we're getting to the point where you can completely artificially put somebody in something.
You do, yeah.
You can do their voice.
You have musicians like suing because they're making fake versions of songs. Like, you know, there was a Drake song. That's not Drake. They use like an AI trained on his sound and his music and his voice.
There's a popular shorts format at the moment which is using various presidents' voices.
Yeah, to play games and stuff like that.
Like on Minecraft and things like that. And obviously that looks like a joke, but think about all of the stuff that's come out about Trump in the past, on even Nixon, a lot of it's been recorded phone calls. So...
The way you say it's like, you know, like AI deepfake images and stuff like that, of like you have actresses and like, you know, just e-celebrities and stuff having porn made of them. Like using this technology and like basically now you're creating like it's being used to create new forms of abuse that we didn't even imagine were possible, and only one person saw it, and it was Crispin Glover. He's out of line, but he's right.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he was a bit of a bellend, but I'm glad he has set a precedent.
Yeah, and that's
in
the
court, because it's so necessary in some situations because now, to set that first precedent.
Because when they now have these arguments, when you have actors are like, do you own the rights to your face? They cite stuff like this.
Yeah, like Glover versus the studio.
And like there's been countless examples of it. I think there was one, it was Tom Waits. People don't know Tom Waits, singer. Very distinct voice.
I too am no longer allowed on eBay.
Really?
And I'll, the last thing I bought was the last dying breath of Henry Ford.
Yeah. Like described as like, it sounds like his voice box was coated in bourbon and then dragged down a gravel road for 5 minutes. Like he got asked once to do an advert and he doesn't do advertising. And so he's like, no, I'm not doing that. So they hired a sound-alike to sing a Tom Waits style song, and he successfully sued for that. And that's again setting the precedent of, because they're saying, well, it's not a Tom Waits song. It's like, but you're trying to make people think that it is.
Well, this is, if they hadn't gone to him and asked first,
exactly,
they maybe could have argued.
They might have been able to get away. It's, no, we just like, you know, it's that style. It's like, no, they specifically went to him. He said no.
What was that thing we talked about a few weeks back? That was that film where they asked to make the film, were told no, and then they went and made an almost identical film.
I don't recall.
It was a horror film.
I don't recall. There's some other examples of this. It is very interesting. Yeah. And again, like we talked about Sky Captain, World of Tomorrow, where they put in, what's the actor who died? The dead guy in that plays the bad guy. They brought him back. Laurence Olivier.
Oh.
Like Laurence Olivier was fucking dead. Like he's like, they brought him back using like archive footage and put him into that movie. And that was what I remember. The joke I made in that is like, it's so hilarious that the whole point of the movie is like his character has been like long dead and has been puppeteered by like an evil, oppressive like dictatorship, and they never saw the irony of doing that exact thing with his dead actor's legacy. And then the other one we've got an article about that I want to talk about one day at length is the Wachowskis for Matrix 2 tried to do this. So do you know the Matrix 2, the character of Seraph?
Is that the weird ghost one?
He's the Asian dude. And he looks suspiciously like Jet Li. To the point where he's even wearing like, you know, the Jet Li sunglasses.
Yeah.
Well, would it surprise you to learn that that was supposed to be Jet Li?
Really?
He was supposed to be Jet Li, yeah. And they brought him in. He read for the script. They wrote the part for him. I was like, yeah, let's bring Jet Li in. This is going to be awesome. And then when he was looking at his contract, what they wanted to do is like bring you in for a couple of weeks of shooting, and then we want to just get some reference footage of you. What do you mean? It's like, well, what we want you to do is we want you to come in after you've done all your fight scenes and stand in front of the green screen, like I'm doing now, like, and show us all your moves. Why would I? Why? And the Wachowskis were really excited. I'm like, well, what we're going to do is we're going to get you to record all your moves so we can put them into our library. And then we can put your moves onto any of our CGI characters so we never need to pay you again. And Jet Li's like, why the fuck would I do that? And that's the thing, like the fact that they thought that he'd agree to it, of like, hey, would you want to like help make your job obsolete for a little bit of money? He's like, no, why would I do that? And his argument was similar to Crispin Glover's, like, you know, my fighting style, that took me years to develop. You know, it's my trade as a martial artist, as a stuntman, as an actor, is my ability to do these things.
Yeah.
Why would I, it took me decades to master, why would I give it away? Well, the fact is like the Wachowskis, like, this is a great idea. He'll love this.
So this is all very depressing.
Yeah.
Can we just talk Back to the Future for a few minutes?
I don't think it's depressing as much as it is fascinating.
The depressing part is the idea that there now have to be debates about the morality.
About who owns
or recreating people who've died and can't consent to their likeness being used.
Because that's the critical thing there as well. Just for me, the fascinating aspect is, it's the people presenting this, you have tech bros on like Twitter of like NFTs of the future, and like just completely oblivious to the very obvious like pitfalls and shortcomings of it, and that it's like rife for abuse and stuff like that. But no, it's great. Like they're doing that in the film, and it's like, isn't it great that we can just put you into a film without paying you? And it's like, no, that shit sucks. And I would pay some amount of money to be a fly on the wall when they pitch that idea to Jet Li. And then you have the thing where they just hired someone who looked exactly like him and got him to basically just be, knock off Jet Li for the scene that he's in.
So I think Back to the Future 3 is my favourite one. I really like the Western theme and...
Well, that's the thing, they're probably going to do that.
Well, they're going to... I've heard rumours they're going to remake it.
They're going to reboot it.
I remember I saw a post where somebody was saying that the only person that they would consider to be a good Marty McFly, if they did it now, would be Tom Holland.
They're just going to do CGI. They're going to de-age him. They own him forever now.
They don't own his likeness.
No, they're gonna. It's like that Simpsons quote, isn't it? Where Homer's like, dead celebrities. It's what you all want for, isn't it? It's like you're going to die and then you're going to be dancing in commercials for vacuum cleaners and there's nothing you can do about it. So they're going to do it. We're going to get it rebooted and they're not going to let anyone do it. Actors can never die. They're going to be just locked in, like, do you know that episode of Black Mirror where they have like Miley Cyrus in a coma and they're like just like torturing her brain and like, oh yeah, we can just extract music from her forever and just have like this perfect digital facsimile of her just singing bubblegum pop songs, and then they listen to like the brain, go, oh, listen to what her brain's saying. It's just screaming like, kill me, I am in pain, end this. But if we put it through the digital filter, it sounds like a pop song. And that was a Black Mirror episode. Now that's happening. We have that. We have like BuzzFeed being like, hey, look, did you see this? This is great. Do you know what BuzzFeed fired everyone? All the writers.
I just want to talk about the future.
No, this is great. This is a real thing that's happening. Do you know they fired all the writers?
Yeah.
They are now trying to train the AI to mimic the voice of writers of colour. Because they recognise that, the distinct voice and lived experience of someone who's black. That's difficult for AI to replicate, so we're now going to invest that so we can have like fake AI that's going to pretend to be black.
That's just going beyond stealing culture.
Yeah, but the thing they're presenting it as they had like an investors meeting, like this is great. Look what we can do. We don't even need to look at people. We could just do everything.
I really like the train time machine.
That's the thing, we have to be aware of these things, Brad. Like, how many artists have we had work for us in the past and stuff.
So this is the third video we've recorded today.
Yeah.
And just before we started, Carl was looking through the articles to read, and he was like, "Oh, we could re-record this one because you did it with Lucas and the audio."
We fucked up the audio, yeah.
And you were like, "Oh, we could do this one, then we could talk about Back to the Future." And I was like, "Yeah, Carl, I love Back to the Future." And now he's just getting into this depressing thing of talking about how people are literally being robbed of their identities and existence
for profit. Well, that's the thing, isn't that the beauty of a fact video? You never know where it's going to go. You never know where it's going to go. Speaking of never knowing where it's going to go, what we've got to plug today, was it the merch or the Patreon?
Well, I mean, you've done both now.
Merch and Patreon, we've got them both.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love it. I cannot get over the short-sightedness of business. Of being like, look, we're going to have these AIs do all the work. It's like, so how do they work? Well, they're trained on the stuff that other people have written. Okay, so there's a finite amount of that. Like, creativity is limitless, but they need to keep creating. It's like, no, fuck that. Let's just fire all of the writers and the people who create stuff and just keep building off the stuff that they did. But eventually, new ideas need to happen. Like, the AI doesn't have creativity. It's like, no, fuck it. Money now. Money now. So we got Darth Vader AI. You hear about that?
Oh my god. What?
James Earl Jones wasn't in the new Obi-Wan series. It's an AI trained on his voice. He's too old to do it.
I thought they had him read the lines and then made them sound a bit younger.
Nope. It's an AI.
Really?
Yeah.
Was Hugh McGregor in it?
And they own that now.
Why did they do that and not like... Because
because James Earl Jones is 90 and he's going to die, but Darth Vader can never die because he continues to earn profit for the company that owns him.
Oh look! Oh, we're out of recording time. Oh no!
But Darth Vader can never die because he continues to earn profit. Darth Vader can never die because he continues to earn profit. Darth Vader can never die because he continues to earn profit. Darth Vader can never die because he continues to earn profit. Darth Vader continues to earn profit because he continues to earn profit for the company that owns it.